An economy for several years based on petroleum, a town established through a vision of the Virgin Mary, and the only main street in West Virginia where the railroad literally runs through the middle of it. I'm Wayne Worth, and you're watching On the Road in West Virginia, R55 counties, Pleasants County. Before anyone had a vision of the Virgin Mary, the 1790s brought the LaRue brothers, Isaac and Jacob, who set up shop at the mouth of Middle Island Creek. Though both brothers were the first to settle the area, it didn't take long for others to follow suit, as the Middle Ohio Valley became prime real estate. Now in 1849, the town of St. Mary's would be established, and legend has it that the name would be inspired from a vision within a dream. Well, the story of why the town was named St. Mary's is a conflicting one. According to legend, businessman Alexander Creel was traveling up the Ohio River on a steamboat, and in a dream he saw the Virgin Mary, who directed him to look towards what was then the Virginia side of the Ohio River. She told him that this site would eventually become a happy and prosperous city. Upon awakening, Big Alex took a look in the moonlight and saw the lower end of Middle Island, and behind it the future city of St. Mary's. Surprisingly, on Creel's return, he sold the sacred land to a dude named Hugh Pickens and settled a mile south in what is today the community of Vaucluse. However, it didn't take long for Creel to remember his vision on that steamboat years earlier, especially when he got word that the B&O Railroad was possibly coming to town. He then repurchased the land that he bought from Hugh Pickens, and in 1849 started laying out the town that he would name St. Mary's. Like I said, this was only legend, and the conflict is that it wasn't Alexander Creel who originally bought the land, but instead was his father. Even with the official establishment of Pleasants County in 1851 and St. Mary's in 1849, things would be pretty slow going economically, but the 1860s would bring a boom that would have a lasting impact for over a century. That prosperity would come way of the country's first oil boom, and Pleasants County in the Mid-Ohio Valley region would become the mecca for oil. As for St. Mary's, it became a big manufacturer of barrel making, since that was the technology of the time when it came to storing and transporting oil. Now by the 1870s, the town had over 10 cooper shops, which were barrel making shops, and by the 1880s, the Eureka Belmont oil field was producing over 200 barrels a day. It even got better in the 1890s when just about every Pleasants County community along Route 2 today was striking it rich. Though St. Mary's was a center of government and growth in the county during this time, Belmont also felt the positive effects of the first oil boom, and 2 hotels and a large store were built to support the lodging and retail needs of the region. With this rapid economic growth surrounding the oil industry, the coming of the railroad would also solidify Pleasants County's prominence as a major economic player in the Ohio Valley. The manufacturing of railroad ties played a vital role in the county's economy, especially with the building of the Ohio River Railroad, which connected Wheeling with Parkersburg. The need for labor and raw materials was so great that farmers even helped produce railroad ties for extra money. However, the construction of the railroad through St. Mary's would be an interesting venture, as the public would become involved down to the basic layout of the tracks. Matter of fact, it would come down to a vote on the exact route of the railroad. Now there were 4 options on where to run the track through town, and the vote was so close on 2 of those options that the surveyor even proposed to run the track at the foot of the hill where the current courthouse is today. As a result, the citizens of St. Mary's responded by loudly expressing their opposition to this new proposal. Town council finally intervened and gave the right to lay 1 track line down the center of Main Street, making St. Mary's the only town in West Virginia where a freight train runs right through the center of downtown. As for the Ohio River Railroad, it was finally completed in the summer of 1884. Now as the 20th century rolled in, so did the automobile. However, for St. Mary's, they seemed to be disconnected with Ohio and points west, which had an impact on commerce and development. Parkersburg, West Virginia, and Marietta, Ohio to the south had more connectivity with the Midwest due to having a bridge. Now this prompted a man named Hiram Carpenter, who ran a ferry boat service at the time, to lobby for the construction of a new bridge from St. Mary's to Newport, Ohio. In February of 1927, Mr. Carpenter got his wish as Congress passed a bill permitting the construction of the St. Mary's Bridge. The bridge was completed in 1928, but would only be in operation for 39 short years. This was because of the Silver Bridge collapse in Point Pleasant, and the St. Mary's Bridge being the same model as the Silver Bridge. Now it would take 10 years before the new Hiram-Carpenter Bridge, which still stands today, to be constructed and open for traffic. Now the oil industry is not what it was back in its heyday, but the 20th century would bring more diverse industries into the county. One such industry that would take off during the 1940s and 1950s would be the chemical industry. Companies like American Cyadamid at Willow Island and the Cabot Corporation would provide economic stability in the county during times of decline in the oil industry. The building of the Pleasants Power Plant at Willow Island during the late 1970s also brought a lot of jobs to the region. However, it brought tragedy too. On April 27, 1978, during the construction of a cooling tower, the scaffolding collapsed, plunging 51 workers 168 feet. Not a one of them survived. One family even lost 10 family members. In the end, OSHA levied fines against some of the construction companies involved in the project, but no one was ever convicted of criminal wrongdoing. The Ohio River throughout Pleasants County's history has been the one constant that has brought growth and sustainability even through some of the toughest times. Today, the river provides many recreational activities such as boating and fishing. And oh, by the way, it's also host to the annual West Virginia Bass Festival, which is the longest running amateur bass tournament in the nation. Some journeys don't have the most predictable routes, but they definitely have a story. I'm Wayne Worth, and until next time, always remember, what we value and hold important to our lives today came from events that happened yesterday, and it's when we begin to understand the events of yesterday that we fully embrace today, which makes tomorrow become less of a mystery. Choo choo!